Hello everyone, this is Western Buddha, and today I'm gonna be making part 3 of US versus Mexican cartels. And I believe that the US is headed towards a proxy war. Not a civil war, a proxy war. And the reason why is basically my conspiracy theory. But I also feel like I've seen like what's happening, and it's just mind blowing that it's more possible than a civil war. Everyone kept talking about, oh, we're gonna have a civil war. It's gonna be a small civil war or whatever. It was just like rioters versus the police, and uh, that was like I want to say like not something to really look forward to. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like, oh, it's just like a little fight, I guess I'm trying to say. But then I started looking up like a lot of like things about like uh, for instance, Israel's APAC. They lobby politicians almost. Uh, if I believe correct, if I remember correctly, it was like 50%, if not 70% of politicians in Congress are just like being paid by APAC. And then you have Saudi Arabia, which is like another big time uh, country that owns fossil fuels. Like, I feel like everybody believes that the fucking Middle East is poor. It's like, it's not poor at all. It's, if anything, it's pretty fucking rich. And these serve mostly like billionaires. I mean, we've heard that Epstein hung out with a lot of the princes of Saudi Arabia, and hell, there's even theories that he was part of Mossad, which was Israel. And now, in low key, Israel and Saudi Arabia are kind of like, buddy buddy in a way. So you would have two foreign countries that are kind of like working with politicians and billionaires. Then you have China that owns farmlands within the US. Not only do they own farmlands, but they're right next to US bases, military bases. And earlier I was watching a podcast. I forgot the guy's whole name. I just know his name is like Jorge or George. And he's a journalist, and he was just talking about like how the immigration is getting worse in America, and specifically the Chinese immigrants are basically up to something. Not all of them, of course, but you can proudly say that a few of them are definitely up to something, because they're entering in like huge masses from like Ecuador all the way to Mexico, of course. They're entering in like huge numbers. They have like basically all those, basically like survivor gear, and they're let in. They're let in, and there's like specific buses that they all use. Like, when like a lot of immigrants, when they enter, they don't know what the fuck to do. They're just like, I'm trying to find a local that speaks Spanish. But no, the Chinese just find a fucking bus, that is driven by a Chinese, and everybody just gets in there, and it's like, what the fuck? And nobody checks who the fuck they are or anything like that. And there's obviously farmlands that are owned, which they could probably be working in. Of course, some of them probably have family, but anyways, it's just very sus to see an alarming amount of them just entering the U.S. in huge masses of numbers with like a country that is basically a first world, and you're telling me that they most likely don't have identification compared to like most Latin Americans? Strange. And then everybody keeps saying this, like it's already been proven true that like cartels are operating within America. They of course have tunnels, and of course they're most likely operating in like forest areas that are completely isolated from civilizations. And not only that, there's even like in that same podcast, George was saying like, oh, like they found marijuana patches that were basically being run by Chinese immigrants. So of course, cartels are working with Chinese, and it was just like mind blowing of how many like countries have basically either invade or are invading and operating, or at the very least having some amount of fucking influence that we're just completely oblivious to it all. We're just like, oh, whatever. They're giving us money, and the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, what the fuck? This is literally a proxy war. I mean, a proxy war set up to happen. And I feel like one of the biggest things that a lot of people say is, oh well, America is surrounded by ocean. You got the Pacific, the Atlantic. Who the fuck is gonna invade us? We have the best defense, the best airplanes. Who the fuck is gonna dare try to invade? We have one fucking border that is continuously overrun by fucking immigrants who are basically not educated but are still able to fucking get over the wall, the fence, and just be hidden from fucking law enforcement for decades. That's one way for them to fucking invade. If you think about it. I mean, cartels have basically been able to fucking invade already. They just don't do it because it's not really profitable. Yet. I mean, that's just a big yet. I feel like America promotes the black market so much that it is mind-blowing, and also it's so surprising how blindsided we are to it all. That America promotes the black market. And I know a lot of people may not believe that fact, but it really does. And if ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Lockheed Martin are able to fucking make billions off of the Afghan war, Iraq war, just by like providing resources for the Pentagon and military, I'm pretty sure the cartels are gonna find a way to profit off of a war with the U.S. I mean, they're almost already getting there. They just have to figure out how. And I think the biggest threat right now is just the cartels, because we are seeing more and more resentment towards the U.S. government. You have left wing, right wing, liberals, conservatives, and then centrists, neoliberals, a bunch of fucking fancy words. And then you have people like that are just completely, I guess you can say, neutral, but in a way of like, I don't really give a fuck. I just don't want to be a part of this and want to leave mentality. Or just want to see the country burn. And this whole resentment towards the government is just like rising more and more, that the government doesn't even like acknowledge it. Like, I feel like back then the government would have acknowledged it and be like, oh hey, actually we did this good thing though. But now it's just kind of like, whatever the fuck you say. I'm getting paid by fucking this fucking foreign country. What the fuck are you gonna do about it? And now that the people are just more and more like hateful towards them. I also feel like culturally we worship crime, specifically gangs. I've said this before in one of my videos. And in a way, cartels are basically a gang, which, if you see like videos, they're like driving Ferraris. And not only that, but they even fit the criteria of like, yo, we're standing up to a government that fucking hates us. It's basically the underdog story. And everybody loves a good underdog story. And if let's say the Chinese are like, you know what, let's start a fucking proxy war. We'll have the cartels start it. We'll fund the money and whatever the fuck, bro. It could happen. And then you have Israel and Saudi Arabia probably doing the same, saying, oh shit, if they fucking fall, we're gonna need like resources for like weapons, somebody to buy our fossil fuels. We gotta back them up. So it's basically four countries just duking it out, and one country falling apart because, like I said, you have people who are most likely gonna be for the cartels. You already have a gender war that's going on. Men and women don't want to be together. Resentment towards just people in general. Hate thy neighbor is real. LGBTQ is just hated. Woke culture is hated. The military fucking sucks. I mean, that whole parade, Jesus fucking Christ. And nobody wants to fight, like, for another war. And now you even have politicians, or at the very least, high-ranking officials that work for the government getting assassinated. Hell, I have a feeling that we're gonna be seeing billionaires getting assassinated pretty fucking soon as well. And then not only that, but you also have Fortune 500 companies. Last time I checked, I believe Apple had almost a GDP. Well, not a GDP, but they had like a revenue or some shit like that. Like, they basically dwarfed a couple countries like the Philippines. I think they even dwarfed South Korea, which was insane that they have that much wealth. They're literally like their own like mini country. So in a way, that's you can even consider like those Fortune 500 companies as a country that is influencing the United States into a proxy war. And I fear that it's a perfect recipe for such a thing to happen. The biggest weakness is Mexico, and I believe that's one of the reasons why we haven't had boots on the ground. I feel like a lot of people just think, oh well, it's because the Mexican president is not letting boots on the ground or whatever. And I'm like, I don't think so. I genuinely believe because such a thing should have happened by now, especially with like CIA, FBI, another basically kind of like not I don't want I just want to say CIA, mostly a terrorist group, would have already influenced Americans to be like, oh, look how bad these guys are. But because of this whole like culture of worshiping gang culture, as well as resentment towards the government, we haven't really. It wouldn't go that way. Like honestly, like if an assassinated official from Mexico or a cartel was to be bombed, I feel like a lot of people in America would have been like, oh no, we know it was most likely the CIA. I mean, USA Aid was already like the CIA's little sister, which is stuff that people are like literally like looking up and finding out like, holy shit, this group is pretty fucking terrible. And the majority of the population in America is mostly Latino, so it's definitely a possibility that most of the population would be for cartels slash China rather than Israel and Saudi Arabia, in a sense. But, anyways, uh, let me know what you guys think. You think we're gonna be headed towards a proxy war, or are we in a perfect blend of a proxy war happening? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe. Peace.